Right, Epsom by numbers, first of all, and here are the numbers. Some of them don't look great, in truth, particularly the crowds. 15,133 on Friday. That's down from 18,000 in 2024, and 22,312 on Derby Day. That's down from 26,838 in 2024. Now, there were notably lower walk-up rates, and that's not going to help you when you've got a yellow weather warning in place. That's clearly going to be a contributory factor. The field sizes were pretty competitive, 106 runners on Derby Day across 8 races, and an 18-runner Derby broadcast in 170 countries, strong whirlpool turnover, and a decent amount of international interest in the race. But it's the crowd numbers that people will be concentrating on. Now, when Golden Horn won the Derby under Frankie Dettori in 2015, they gave an official crowd figure of 125,000. Now, before you go, hang on a minute, 125,000 to 25,000 or whatever it was, 22,000, a lot of that was a Hill estimate. But even the most optimistic estimate of what was going on in the Hill yesterday would struggle to have got anywhere near a 6-figure total. So the Derby attendance is dropping, nay plummeting, certainly since COVID, Dave Ord. And what are we going to do about it?
Got to do something, haven't we? That's very clear, and we're waiting another year. It's going to be the same format at least next year, we know, in terms of the racing. We've got to sell the race. We've got to sell the occasion. We've got to excite people in advance of it. The walk-up figure, 100%, that weather forecast was a big mitigating factor.
But
you speak to racecourses, I get it, is up and down the country. They will tell you walk-up disappeared. People don't decide on the spur now to go racing. They'll tell you a week in advance what their crowds are going to be for the big meetings, the big festivals. People have to decide in advance. We've got to sell the race, the day out, the dream, somehow to bring people back. Fill the Hill. Start by filling the Hill again, bringing that back. I know it doesn't bring people through the turnstiles, but the sense of occasion for Epsom was always in the middle of the course, the buzz, the vibrancy, the party. And that, I mean, you say 100,000 Golden Horn year. I mean, I wouldn't like to put a number on yesterday's, but you'd be a tenth of it, wouldn't you?
Well, I mean, it was 22,000 officially through the turnstiles, and then whatever on the Hill is anybody's guess. Yeah. But they just don't even try now to give you that figure. But it doesn't look as full as it used to. There's all sorts of reasons for that. Subsequent to COVID, it's not really come back to what it was before. How do we engage people in this race, in coming to this race and making it a great occasion? It's got to feel like a good occasion for a starter.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I don't know if they still charge to go on the Hill side of it. At one time it was free, and I would try and make that free again.
Bits of it a charge, aren't they?
As many people in there as possible. Also, I think they need to look at the pricing for the main stands as well. I think if you wanted to take a family there, it's extortionate, the prices. If you were going in, the children have to be paid for. It's not one where you get in free. And you know, you could say, well, you compare it to Wimbledon or something like that, and it's about on par. But Wimbledon's sold out every year. You know, we're not selling out the Derby. We need to get people there.
And people will pay top dollar in the really top enclosures or hospitality or whatever if the experience is commensurate with what they've experienced elsewhere at Wimbledon or wherever, or Royal Ascot, or, you know, it just didn't have that sense of grandeur that our biggest race should have.
And there was very, very little in advertising it this year, I think, the build-up. In years gone by, when different people were sponsoring the meeting, there was adverts from early in the year, you know, a lot of them all around London and places like that, saying, come to the Derby, it's the day out, it's the experience, it's the one day of the year sort of thing. 25
minutes on the train to either Epsom Downs or Epsom or Tattenham Corner. You've got a choice of 3 stations, and it's a 5-minute cab ride or a 2-minute walk.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's not hard to get to.
It was London's day out, wasn't it? That's when it was billed, when it was Wednesdays, I know, but it was London's great day out. We've lost that. That's disappeared.
I don't know quite how they do it, but before we start trying to target new audiences to come, let's find out why the people
that were there 10 years ago aren't coming. They're not all dead.
Yeah, no, exactly. Why aren't they coming anymore?
Jim Mullen is the new chief executive of the Jockey Club. He's been in post exactly a week now. Gave me an interview on Friday, gave Bill Barber an interview on Friday, gave Ed Chamberlain a brief interview on ITV as well on Friday. He said, judge me further down the track, I've got lots to do, but he'll expect to be judged. He's been in the teeth of some pretty spicy jobs at Entain and Reach PLC, where he wasn't there to make friends, but to make the books balance. But he gave us some quite interesting stuff, I thought, Dave. He
did. It was quite a big round of media interviews as well, wasn't it? As you say, for 1 weekend, we can't judge him on the 2025 Derby, but you will be judged on the 2026, the 2027, and what you do in the meantime now, what changes.
Now, what he's doing, he's giving the racecourses back the power, isn't he?
You go on then, you decide what is it that you want. I thought the Kentucky Derby, similarly, it was drawing up. He wants to be like that, to sell it to the area, sell it to the local people, let them believe it's their race. That's worked for Aintree with the Grand National. That's become Liverpool's race again over the last 6-7 years.
Yeah, not a soul was going to Aintree in the 70s.
No, nobody, absolutely. And they've sold it to the people of Liverpool again now. It's vibrant, it's exciting. They love the race, they're proud of it. And you need that again with Epsom. I thought that was one interesting angle, because there isn't, as Stuart said, you don't see adverts for anywhere. You wouldn't know it was Derby Day until you arrived at Tatton Corner Station and walked down. It's that sense of sort of local pride, excitement.
What about Jim Mullen's role in the sport on a more macro level? Because if he's going to let the racecourses run themselves and say, right, you give back to me what I give to you in freedom, what sort of part's he going to play in steering the sport politically?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I hope he can.
What do you think he needs to? What do you think he needs to do?
Well, I think I'd like to see the Jockey Club racecourses align closer to the BHA than the RCA going forwards. So, you know, they've both got racing completely at heart, and it's important for the heritage of this country and its racing that we can work together and try and get everyone going in the same direction.
Interesting what Jim Mullen said about Lord Allen, and we talked about that last week on the show, the delayed incumbency of Lord Allen as the BHA chair. And he did say in the interview that I did with him, if he does come in, sparks will fly.
Yeah, well, I hope he's right.
Okay. Productive sparks, anyway.
Yeah.
Watering. I had a few questions from key racing professionals last night asking me to talk about this. Epsom watered on Tuesday, and Andrew Cooper has made the clerk of the course at Epsom has made the point many times that you can lose control of the track if you don't water cautiously in the days leading up, even if you have an unsettled forecast. Now, was it right to put water on the track on Tuesday, given an unsettled forecast?
I honestly think the clerk of the courses do have an almost impossible job, but in the last 10 or 12 years, I think they have gone a little bit too far with the watering when there's rain in the forecast, and there's been a clamour for good instead of good to firm. Now, I have a lot of sympathy with Andrew in this case, because I try to walk all the tracks when we have runners, and Epsom's one of those tracks where I have a going stick of my own that goes in quite far, and at Epsom it goes in about that far, and then underneath it feels like there's a road. It just goes so far and then stops. So he's only got that much to play with, and if it starts warming up and there's no rain, it goes quick like that. And he's obviously conscious that nobody wants rattling fast ground round Tatton Corner. Did he need to put the 5 mil on Tuesday? I'm not so sure, but I can understand why he did it.
It was interesting, actually, because end of Oaks Day, it's getting to proper good ground on the times. And then 3 mils overnight, that's turned it right back to something more like good to soft. And then obviously soft and heavy by the end of the day, because we got a deluge. But
because that's what Stuart said about good to firm's the remit, isn't it? That's what you aim for, and we don't aim for.
Will there ever be good to firm on Derby Day?
I don't think there will, because we don't aim for good to firm now, do we? It's a general rule. It's very now.
I know there has been in fairly recent past when the sun's come out and.
It's difficult as well when it's a 2-day fixture, isn't it? Because they're loath to water between days. So the watering, they'll do it early in the week, and they hope that they don't have to do it between Friday and Saturday if they can avoid doing so.
How many days should this fixture be? Is 2 about right? Could it be condensed into 1? Does it need to be expanded to 3? What's the optimal? Where should it sit?
I think it's a difficult track to have 3 days on, and we're so close to Ascot that if you try and attract those horses, you're probably not going to win that battle. So it needs to be a mixture of handicaps. They're limited with the 2-year-old races that they can put on there as well.
Well, we can roll the clock straight on because we're talking about the shape of the meeting, how it looks best. At the moment, Dave, and lots of people have pointed this out, it doesn't feel quite like we got the balance of the racing right.
No, I don't think we have. I found, and you pointed out, there might be logistical reasons. I thought the 2 dashes back-to-back on the Saturday card, just a bit, another one. I'd like the Coronation Cup moved onto the Saturday card.
Like it was in the
Like it was,
yeah.
Gravitas. And you've also got that narrative running through that, these are the horses that might be clashing in the King George in a month's time, running an hour apart. And you're seeing the different generations. Previous years' Derby principles, Oaks principles, might be running again at Epsom and giving you that absolute stardust on Derby. Derby Day lacks stardust away from the Derby. The support card, and also the length of the meeting. I don't know about you, it seems to take an awful long time through the afternoon to get from race 1 to race 7 or race 8.
I've asked, I put in requests, and I know the messages have been read, and quite sometimes Sunday morning it takes a while for people to get back to you, but I don't understand. I understand why there was 45 minutes for the Derby. I understand-ish why there was a gap after the Derby. But 45, another 45 between 2 fairly run-of-the-mill handicaps, albeit for nice horses, and then another 40 until the last of the... I mean, now, if it had been sunshine, it would have been... Oh, my word. I mean, echoes of what Rafe Beckett said. Are we trying to bore people to death?
Yeah, it does need to be shortened a little bit. I can understand why they want 45 minutes after the Derby.
And before it, especially. You want the build-up. Yeah.
Exactly.
I think have as long as you want before it.
I think the 3-year-old dash might be better off being a 6-furlong race.
So then they could move it, presumably, because I'm guessing with the road they have to have the 2 5 furlongs back to back.
Yeah. That's the problem. Yeah.
And any other?
I'd probably not put the dash right before the Derby either. If I was honest, that you know, if you're a jockey or a trainer and you've got horses in the Derby, the last thing you want to be thinking about is helter-skelter down the straight at Epsom, you know, going across 2 roads and going flat out and half the field diving for the near rail at the same time. You'd probably rather be thinking, right, this is what I'm going to do in the Derby, and you know.
I think it suited Aidan to have the Persica race just at that time, because he was doing his Derby, wasn't he? He stopped at the stalls and spoke to Ryan Moore for about 3 minutes while he was circling around on the favourite. Yeah, I agree about the dash before the Derby. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like the balance. I know you'd love to stick the Oaks on, make it an absolute sensational, sizzling Saturday, but then you're basically condemning the Friday card.
Well, you're also, I mean, I think there'd then be a point about ground, wouldn't there?
3 races on the... Yeah, especially if it came up soft one year, you could be...
There have been all sorts of crazy ideas about what to do. I mean, crazy good, not crazy bad. I remember 20 years ago, Steve Mellish saying on a programme like this to me that he would have Oaks Derby Coronation Cup in a big, like 8 or 9 race card running all the way through Friday night. And people could start coming from work midway through Friday afternoon, just gently build it up, and then it would really explode into a big primetime TV Friday night finale or whatever. I mean, and it was an idea I enjoyed then. I don't know whether the changing dynamics of TV would make it happen. Now, I proposed the idea of moving it to the Saturday before Royal Ascot and having the Coronation Cup, the Oaks and the Derby on one day. That went down like a cup of cold soup.
I've had people do a huge concert, pop concert on the Thursday in the middle of the course. Huge concert, big name, fill it with them and get those camping out. Here you go, it's a festival. You're here for the Derby Festival. You've got a music act on day 1, days 2 and 3. You've got some of the best racing you'll ever see as well. And trying to sell the whole occasion, the whole package, rather than just trying to sell individual races, which I think we're doing at the moment.
Yeah, I think it needs more. It just needs more grandeur, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Speaking of which, royal patronage was given to Hexham Racecourse this week. The Queen was at Hexham. The Queen has been seen at a lot of racecourses over the last few years, but there was no royal presence at the Derby yesterday. Now, their schedules are full, but it did make me realise the impact that the late Queen's support of the Derby probably had for an awful long time in the profile of the race.
you really notice it bizarrely in the media centre, because when the royal family are there, it's packed. Photographers, you see that the royal correspondence, it's the whole place is different. And yet I spoke to Ed Chamberlain before when the weather forecast came. I said, well, what's plan B if you can't stand outside? And they've been offered the royal box. So I thought, I know they're not coming there. I don't think the king will move to one side to let a camera through. But we're a sport that needs. We feel like we like our friends in high places, don't we? And we were very concerned with the Patronage Late Queen, what it meant. I mean, the support now. I mean, even for William Mullins. But to get to Hexham, I know there's a stand named after her, and she spoke to 3 local trainers to hear their concerns about the sport moving forward. They expressed the challenges they were facing, etc. So, yeah, I mean, you can take it however. You can take it as reassuring that there is that personal interest in the sport of horse racing still from high up in the royal family. And I don't know what it actually means to us, but it's definitely still there.
Yeah, I mean, I was chatting yesterday to Luca, who's with me from the Racing Media Academy, and he was saying, do you really think it made a difference when the Queen was here at the Derby? And I said, well, not in a kind of jingoistic, everybody coming to wave a little Union Jack kind of way, but more in terms of the fact that it elevated the standing of the event and it gave it that kind of air of importance.
I think it made a huge difference, honestly. The patronage of the late Queen and her passion for horse racing, and when she went to a meeting, it wasn't only lifting the meeting, it was people from all around the world saw that the Queen went to the meeting.
Went to the races, so
went to the races,
it was a thing,
and went to the Derby. And she used to turn up at the Derby regularly. It was a pain in the arse.
Every year, pretty much.
It was a pain in the arse for us because we couldn't get anywhere because of the security. We were standing there with a saddle thinking, my horse is over there and I can't put it on. But honestly, she was fantastic for our sport. It's great that the King and Queen are still patronising our sport, but I don't think they quite have the passion for it, especially the flat racing, that the late Queen did.
I mean, that would almost be impossible. I think the bar was set almost impossibly high. I think the first Derby I did for telly, I went up to the old grandstand, the big grandstand, and went up. The press room used to be right at the top. Do you remember? I went up. If you wanted to go outside, you'd have to go right up, and you'd walk round the slate roof. And I sort of wandered round the corner, and there's a guy with a sniper on them, ran straight into the sniper. I thought, oh, it's quite a big occasion today. Ruling Court didn't run yesterday, and this is kind of an interesting point insofar as you wouldn't want it to go unnoticed that he didn't run, Dave. This was the 2,000 guineas winner, and that should have been an absolutely totemic horse for the Derby. Really exciting winner of a really good 2,000 guineas, and he just kind of slipped quietly out of the race about 2 hours before.
I found it so deflating. I mean, I was walking around, it was a 3-year-old dash, and there's ding-dong announcement, an important runner in the Betfred Derby, number 13, Ruling Court, will not run. And there wasn't a groan from the stands. There wasn't a reaction, which I thought, dear me, this is the Guineas. This is a horse who, I know it's every time a Guineas runner runs in the Derby, they were talking Triple Crown, some people going into. He was potential star turn, and you got the sense after Desert Flower that there was unease, and they were pointing initially at the weather forecast, the rain. I don't want that to come.
And it hadn't come.
It didn't come, and it didn't come. It arrived before the 4:10. And to make the decision so late, and I just feel frustrated because we'll probably never see him over a mile and a half now, which is going to be a new facet. So we were going to learn something new about him. And I'd have had him as favourite. I was so looking forward to seeing him in action in the race. And I think we lost an awful lot from the Derby by the fact he wasn't there.
And there seemed to be a sort of pervading feeling, Stuart, that he probably wasn't going to run from quite a way out, really.
Yeah, possibly.
And everyone was sort of shrugging their shoulders and resigned to it.
Yeah, I think you're right that the result the day before probably had an effect on them. I mean, like I did walk the track myself, and it was on the slow side, but it wasn't ground where you'd think, I've got to not run.
I know. Not when it's a race of that magnitude, no, exactly, and you've got a horse of that profile.
Exactly. But having said that, they were saying they didn't have doubts about him staying the trip, but I think on pedigree and run style, I think probably a lot of people did have doubts about him staying the trip. So if you
never know.
Complicate all those together, hopefully he'll go to Ascot or the Eclipse or something like that, and we'll see him then.
Well, they're suggesting the St James's Palace is the next obvious race where he goes into the jaws of Field of Gold again.
It doesn't. It builds that up wonderfully, doesn't it?
Well, he was beating him. So.
Yeah. Shadow of Light, you thought was the one going there. So where does he go now?
Commonwealth Cup.
So
he's 2-1 favourite.
Is he there now? Yeah, so that strengthens that. But I just thought for the derby itself, I thought he was a big miss yesterday.
A huge miss. But of course it left it open once again for Aidan O'Brien, who might well have won it anyway. But what is the Ballydoyle pecking order full stop now? Well, the trainer made an interesting allusion to this earlier in the week when Jan Bruegel won, because he said Los Angeles, what was the words?
They're all standing in line behind Kyprios.
Yeah, and now they all have to stand in line behind Los Angeles.
Yes.
Is that it?
Yeah. And it's amazing when you hear him talking about the shuffling of the pack, because Jan Bruegel wasn't going to France for Group 1. Then all of a sudden, Illinois now is the stayer, so he goes into the Kyprios route. So now that allows Jan Bruegel to slot into a Coronation Cup. And it's just, I know you get it after every Guineas and every Derby, the shuffling of the packs, but you think about the beginning of the spring with Ballydoyle, it was all about the Line in Winter, was the buzz horse over the winter, then the negative vibes began to come, then it was Delacroix, we thought, and then you leave Epsom, and it's Lamborn is their best middle distance horse on numbers and figures, and you look at the milers, and Henri Matisse is the one who's going forward into the St James's Palace in against Field of Gold and Ruling Court. It's amazing how horses like Whirl, who look relatively exposed, not massively exposed, but relatively exposed, going in at the end of their 2-year-old career. Even Lamborn finishes second to Delacroix in the Ballysax. You think, well, that's probably his level. And everything just turns upside down in the space of 4 or 5 weeks.
But here's the thing about Whirl, and it struck me yesterday. We're going to talk to the trainer in a minute. He brought her to the Convivial Maiden at York last year. Yeah. Now, she just sort of floated around and finished 5th or whatever. Yeah. But you're not going to do that unless you're thinking, well, this will be on the plane next year a few times. Yeah. It's all part of the thing, isn't it?
The Lion in Winter will be back.
Yeah.
He had obviously had ringworm in the spring. He was absolutely covered in dead ringworm yesterday in the paddock. It's dead, but that kind of thing knocks the stuffing out of them.
In terms of what, immune system and that kind of thing?
For sure, knocks the stuffing out of them. So, you know, they've obviously had a rushed preparation to try and get him to the Dante and then to the Derby. And nothing's gone right for him in both races, but I'm sure he'll be back later in the year. He'll win. I wouldn't be surprised to see him win a Group 1 race. And
I'm going to ask Aidan in a minute about this, but the time posted by Jan Bruegel suggested that actually looking at the Coronation Cup through the prism of Calandagan's defeat rather than Jan Bruegel's success would be folly, because we could be talking about a very good horse.
Oh, no, he's a very good horse, yeah.
And is he always going to have to make way for what Los Angeles is doing? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It's a nice problem to have.
It's a beautiful problem to have.
I thought it was really interesting as well, we're learning moving forward. He talked about Chester, how the Oaks winner and both won at Chester. And he likes to go there because he educates them, accelerates, so it makes them quicker, but gives them quick feet. And it's the horses who they think, to develop quick feet, he takes them to Chester. And that's all part of the planning through the spring, that who's going where, who needs to learn to have quick feet.
And interestingly, the Chester racecourse PR machine wasted no time yesterday. But they spotted Cheshire Oaks, Mini Hawk, and Chester Vase won too. Lamborn and Lazy Griff.
And your guest later on trained the third in that Chester Vase as well, Carl, so...
Thank you.
Exciting times for him, yeah.
Remind me the name of the horse again?
Carl will.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Those were this week's talking points.
Watch live racing now on racingtv.com.